My name is Kasey Corpus. I am the program coordinator at Glasshouse Policy, which is a local nonprofit think tank. We just basically tried to bridge the divide between citizens and policymakers and help engage the community on policy. And I'm just going to go ahead and let everyone introduce themselves and talk about what their background is and how they interact with tech and policy.
All right. Hey, everyone. Sorry. Okay, cool. My name is Victoria Odell, but a lot of people know me as Vicky. Just because I believe identity is really important, especially in places like this. I identify as bisexual, non-monogamous, Latinx, and Texan. I think that's really important because the personal is political. And what sort of brought me here today is that I'm Programs and Communications Manager for Capital City Innovation. I also moonlight as Open Austin's Brigade Captain. And why tech and policy? Well, I asked a lot of questions because my background's in design, so I knew nothing about those things. And I was like, I should learn more about that because it affects me and it affects people that look like me. So that's why I'm here.
Tech is hard. There we go. Hey, everyone. My name is Gabby, Perla, and I'm on the public policy team at Google. I'm based in DC, and this is my first time in Austin. And since identity is important, tacos are really important to my identity, and it's what I do with my spare time, so I am thrilled to be here. I sort of stumbled into tech policy. That seems to be a recurring theme. I was working on the Hill, and I had a really random portfolio of issues, everything from Puerto Rico and the Postal Service to gun control, and then tech was this tiny little thing in my portfolio that got me really excited. And that's what ultimately led me to thinking about joining the tech industry, and that's how I ended up at Google. And now at Google, I run our public policy fellowship program, where I hope to get students excited about tech policy earlier on in their careers so that they just don't derp their way into tech policy, but it's something that they do intentionally and something that they do with excitement.
Hi, my name is Julio Gonzalez Altamirano. I have a day job in tech, and in the evenings and whenever time allows, I'm an active citizen in transportation, housing, and fiscal policy issues.
Hi, my name is Mateo, Clarke. I got to share a little bit about my story this morning. So for the folks that weren't here, I'm a software developer. I work for the Austin Transportation Department. I met Vicky through Open Austin, and I stay engaged with the civic tech community here in Austin.
All right, well, and now that you've been introduced to everyone, I'm going to jump into the topic a little bit more. So we often see that city growth does not necessarily go in hand with economic and racial inclusion. Most cities that become tech or business hubs eventually end up pushing out marginalized communities. And so I think we want to talk a little bit about how we can use and leverage technology to help address issues like homelessness, transportation, affordability, to ensure that cities continue to grow consciously and help increase inclusivity. So my first question is, a lot of people tend to see technology or the tech industry as being the root of a lot of these issues, especially in cities like Austin where affordability and gentrification are issues. How can we better use technology to help solve these issues or help alleviate those things?
I guess I can start by saying I think data is a big part of this. So collecting data and actually looking at it for insight and for planning. If we're collecting information about where people are moving, what their income level is, like who's living where, I think we can start to create stories of what's going on in our city and take that data and information, take the stories of what's happening and start to tell it to not just the community but also the businesses that are coming into the town like Austin, so we can share with them hey, this is a problem that we have here. As a business who's going to use our resources, you should help us to address this. And I think with Capital City Innovation, we're working to create an innovation district here in Austin that focuses on rethinking health and economic development for all. And we want to make sure those partners that are coming into the city understand the issues that we have and work to create solutions for them. So data, I think, is key in doing that.
I can chime in for. I think one of the big issues is not just like the actual technology is the problem, but it's the folks that are writing the policy, the folks that are making the decisions don't look like us, right? There aren't enough of us in the room, and so that lends itself to a lot of cultural blind spots. And for policy to be inclusive, the policy making needs to be inclusive and representative, right? So that's a thing that really excites me about our fellowship. It's that we're thinking about those intersections early on. If you're anything like me, going into tech policy, I was really passionate about all the things: social justice, grassroots organizing, economic mobility, without really realizing that I was also really passionate about tech policy because it bisects and intersects at really fundamental points, right? So I think that's a really key component to sort of addressing those.
And I think it's also important to keep in mind as well is we need representation of obviously different communities and backgrounds, but even just having people who actually understand technology help write policy as well. A lot of legislators, when they're passing those laws, they don't have a background in that, and so sometimes it's not always the best written. But anyway, moving on. So what do you think, what are some interesting tech-forward policies that you've seen at the city level, at the state level, that make you excited and interested in looking forward?
So I'll contribute to policies that I think are very important. I think Austin has at different moments actually led in trying to open up more data, more rows of data that are more granular, so that indeed there can be organizing and insights. Mateo actually created this park equity tool, which I really thought was very powerful in that it highlighted a specific problem that could be organized around the quality of access around parks, and it required, in part, a lot of data that the city can, only the city can maintain. I think the second thing, and this is so important, is algorithmic fairness. And actually, the model policies aren't fully baked. The city of New York had a task force, there's a reporting coming. You should read more about it. I think in many ways, decision-making is moving around a lot of issues that are important at the municipal level, from what voting blocks want to what the code blocks say and decide. And so opening up the process to have a little bit more democratic accountability is going to be really important. And I'll conclude with, not in the US, but abroad, there has been a greater interest in moving away from proprietary software systems. And I think we are in a moment in American society which might not last very long, or could be a watershed where people are questioning whether prosperity and the assets created by prosperity should be more democratically controlled. Obviously, software, because of its centrality in our life today, is going to be one of those assets that we need to talk a little bit more about.
Yeah, and if I can